Greetings. This is Justin Allen, the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, a podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system. And frankly, screw that. Sick of it. And it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take the measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked with the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help a nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode. Everyone, Justin Allen with the Elite Nurse Practitioner. We're going to have another solo podcast this week. Today, I want to talk about setting up your business in a way that you can sell it. I get emails about this all the time. I do help people sell practices. I do. So, I do some brokering on the side. ProIBrokers.com is the name of it. ProIBrokers.com. So if you want to sell your business, I'm happy to help you sell it. But I guess all the time, like, how do I sell my practice, or how do I set my practice up in a way that I can sell it? Very, very important. So the last podcast I did was about the difference between being an entrepreneur and being self-employed, right? Big difference. A self-employed individual isn't going to be able to sell their business. You can't sell your business as a self-employed individual. You just can't, because your business is completely reliant on you. No one buys a business like that. Nobody does, all right? You have to be a true entrepreneur if you want to sell your business. You just have to. So this episode, I want to talk about setting up your business in a way to where you can sell it, or transitioning your already established practice into a business that you can sell. All right. Very, very important. I talk about this a lot at our millionaire conferences. So this is going to be kind of a very brief synopsis of that lecture that I give there. So first off is your business has to be set up in a way that it doesn't rely on you. Your business can't be it can't be completely reliant on you as the business owner. It just can't. Nobody buys a business like that because the risk is way too high. If you bought a business from someone and it was completely reliant on the business owner to continue to provide services or whatever, and that person got hit by a car 2 months after you bought it from them, you're up shit creek, right? Like, I mean, the business is done essentially, right? So it's way too high risk. So you have to get yourself out of your business. If you want to sell your practice, get yourself out of the business. One of the first things I ask when someone wants me to help them sell their business is, how much are you involved in the day-to-day operations? And if they tell me I'm 100% involved, my business is 100% reliant on me, I tell them I'm not interested, because it's going to be a waste of my time. Nobody's going to buy that business. All right. So you have to get yourself out of the business. Now, the business can be reliant on you to a point. Okay. So let's say you have a practice and you see maybe 25% of the patients. The other 75% are seen by other providers. You can sell that business. That's fine. When you sell it, you're going to have to be still associated with it for a year or two so they can get you out of it. All right. If you manage all of it, if you're like the main manager of the business or whatever, same kind of a thing. You're going to have to stay with the business for probably a year or two after you sell it because they have to replace you. So if you want to sell your business and not have to have that much of a post-close obligation, get yourself out of it. All right. So get yourself out of your practice. A self-employed NP is the provider. You can't sell a business like that, all right? My men's health clinics, I could sell that because I really don't see patients anymore. I just really don't. I mean, I see patients for like a couple hours a week, I'm easily replaceable. So I could sell that very, very easily. So get other people to see patients for you. Get a practice manager. Get a director. Get people to do the work for you. It's not negotiable. You have to have that in place if you want to sell your business, all right? Because no one's going to buy it if it's completely reliant on you. No one is. So they're just not going to. It's way too high risk. Okay. So that's number one. All right. Get yourself out of the business. Number two is you have to have standard operating procedures in place. You have to be able to give someone a manual or a blueprint on how your business operates. Way too many nurse practitioners and people in general, they have this misconception of what an actual operating procedure is, what an SOP is, what a standard operating procedure manual is, okay? Policies and procedures, basically. They have this misconception of what that actually is. They think that they need it for some regulatory agency who's going to come check you out and ask you for it. That doesn't exist. All right. No one's going to really ask you for your SOPs. They're just not going to. Unless you're a medical practice and something very, very bad happens. A patient dies or fraud's being committed or something. They're going to want to see your SOP to see, did you have something in here that should have prevented this employee from doing that killed the patient or fraudulently billed Medicare or whatever it was, all right? That's when you'll need that. But overall, if you do stuff the right way, you don't really need an SOP, okay? It's not necessary if you're just self-employed. I didn't have an SOP at my men's health clinic for 2 years. I just did it. Like, a lot of people buy these pre-made SOPs online. Like, what does that mean? Is it truly the manual for your business? Is it truly the operational guide to your business? If someone bought your business, could they take that pre-made SOP that you bought and go through it and use it to run your business? Probably not, right? It's a waste of money. You buy it, you put it on a shelf, and it's never used. That's not what an SOP is, guys. An SOP is truly the step-by-step playbook on how your business operates. You need to have that if you're going to sell your business, because the person who buys your business, they need to know how to run your business, all right? They're going to ask you, do you have an SOP? And they're probably going to review that SOP after they sign a non-disclosure agreement, of course, but they're going to review that, okay? So you have to have an SOP. Not only is it necessary for the actual sale of the business, it's necessary to get you out of the business. You can't have a bunch of employees and other providers do your job unless they know what to do. All right? So they need to know. That's how you get yourself out of the business, is by having that SOP. Have the SOP. Critically important, guys. It's not that hard to make one. You do not need to have an SOP when you open up. Do not get hung up on that fact. I couldn't tell you how many MPs I've had email me in the last 5 years asking me, about SOPs and how they're scared of launching their business, starting their business without one. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You don't need one. Just get the doors open and figure it out as you go. All right. You can start an SOP later on. So if you are a clinic listening to me right now and you've been open for 2 years, or if you are in the startup phase opening up your practice, just get an SOP slowly developed. And it's really not that hard. Every single time you do something in your business, write out what it is that you're doing. or record your screen. Okay, if you record your screen on how to schedule a patient or place an order in Access Medical Labs or place an order in Empower or whatever it is, you now have a training video, right? That's part of your SOP. Okay, so it's really not that hard to do. Basically, anytime you do something, just write it out. That way you have a manual that you can give people so they can run your business for you so you can get out of the business, right? Critically important. You have to have that if you are going to sell your business, all right? You need to be open for 3 years, preferably minimum, all right? 3 years minimum. It's better if you're open for 5 years. If you're open for 10 years, even better. The longer you're open, the more money you're going to get for your business when you go to sell it. If you have been open for 1 year, don't even think about it. All right. If you've been open for 2 years, don't even think about it. When people email me asking me to, help them sell their business, if they've been open for less than 3 years, I don't bother because it's going to be too hard to sell that business. 3 years minimum, guys. All right. 3 years, preferably 5 years. The longer you are open with history that shows growth, the better that looks to a buyer. All right. Buyers like to see a length of time that the business has been open for. That's going to go to my next point. The next thing that's important is it needs to show growth. Okay. You need to show consistent growth. If you've been open for 3 years, over those 3 years, your revenue needs to be slowly increasing or increasing quite a bit. It doesn't really matter. 5 years, the exact same thing. 10 years, it could plateau. All right. Even with 5 years, maybe that last fourth year can kind of plateau. That might be a red flag, though, on people buying it. They're like, oh, they want to sell it now because, growth is plateau. Maybe they know something we don't know. But the best time to sell a business is typically during the growth stage of the business. That's usually the best time to sell it. And that's a difficult thing to time because you just don't know if it has another year or two to grow, right? That's just kind of the risk of this. It's just like investing. If you buy Google, so I bought Google recently at, it's like 145, 150 back in April. And, I'm going to sell it any day now. I'm just kind of getting greedy with it. I told myself I'd sell when it hit $200, but it's like 203, 204 the day that I recorded this. And I'm still kind of holding on to it because I think it could probably grow some more. So yeah, don't listen to my advice here because I'm doing the exact opposite of what I'm telling you to do. It's like you need to sell it during the growth period of time, and you can't time that, guys. It's impossible. You just can't time it because you just don't know, right? If you sell your practice and it has, maybe it had 2 more years of growth to it, and that could have been 2 more years you could have made a lot of money with it and sold the business for a lot more money. You're just not going to know that. And so my advice is between that 3 to 5 year period of time, if you're growing, between that period of time, between the 3 and 5 year mark, and you're just kind of getting tired of it and you just want to go, just let it go. Don't wait, Sure, you can make some more money selling the business because, if it is growing more, you're going to be able to sell it for more money. But if you just have this feeling that it's time to go, just let it go. All right. Just sell it. So there's no perfect time to really sell the business. I consult with a lot of people who want to sell their business, and oftentimes they tell me they're going to wait another year. And, I tell them, okay, as long as you're continuing to grow, right now you're growing. So right now we could sell it. A year from now, you might not be able to. I ran into that with a group of NPs who had a weight loss clinic out of, I believe it was Texas. And we could have sold their practice for a lot of money. And they were right in the middle of that GLP-1 growth spurt. And they probably could have sold that practice for a lot. And I suspect that they aren't growing anymore. I suspect their volume has probably decreased. Now it's going to be almost impossible to sell that business. Very, very few people buy a business where sales are falling. It's too much of a risk unless they are a private equity company that buys, businesses that might be hurting and they can come in and kind of fix it. But otherwise, if sales are dropping off, huge red flag for people. All right. So Sell the business during a growth spurt. That's when you want to sell the business. All right. You need to have a recurring income stream of some sort. One and done sort of businesses, treat and street kind of things, maybe where a customer comes in, a patient comes in, they pay you one time and that's it. Those are businesses that are going to be a little bit more difficult to sell because there isn't a guarantee in income, so to speak. So you want to have some sort of recurring income stream in place, and that's subscription-based, subscription-based pricing. That's why I'm so heavy on having a subscription-based model in your practice. It's because it's a guaranteed, predictable income stream in your business, and it makes it more attractive to sell it eventually. Like that's a business that you want to sell, that's a business that's attractive. It has a recurring income stream to it. So try to get away from the pay per service model and integrate more subscription-based services into your practice. You want to have some kind of recurring income stream in your practice. Very, very important. All right. That just makes your business so much more attractive to a potential buyer. You'll be able to sell your business for more money if you have recurring income with it. A subscription, a membership, something. Okay. Very, very important. All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and the other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioners, sisters, and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode. And that's going to take me to basically business to business contracts. Now, most of you are business to consumer, right? You just treat patients that come off the street essentially. But if you could have some kind of business to business transaction, some contractual stuff, you contract out with an employer, for example, or contract out with a government agency. Having those things in place are very attractive to private equity and buyers. All right. That's not going to apply to a lot of you guys, but some of you that listening, it might apply. So kind of keep that in mind. All right. And then cash-based versus insurance. Now, I'm going to say this. An insurance-based practice is going to be more attractive to a buyer. It's just going to be. It's lower risk. It's basically a guaranteed form of payment. An insurance-based practice will be able to sell for 1 or 2x more than a cash-based practice in most cases. All right. This isn't, like I said, this isn't scripture. This is just, in most cases. So if you accept insurance, you will be able to sell that practice probably for more money than you would if you're cash-based. Now, if you have a cash-based practice right now, I don't want you to go out and, start accepting insurance because you want to sell your business. Don't do that. I mean, cash is still king. Like, I would never open up an insurance practice ever, personally. I just don't want to deal with headaches. But if you have an insurance-based practice, or you're thinking about opening a practice to eventually sell down the road, then think about accepting insurance. If you have an insurance-based practice, just keep taking insurance because you'll probably be able to sell that if you want to sell that down the road. So, so keep that in mind. It's a little bit more attractive. Now, that's going to take us to books, your bookkeeping. You really should have clean books, guys. It's going to be very, very hard to sell a business that has a clusterfuck of books. Like, it's going to be really hard to sell that. I have consulted with some people who wanted to sell their practice. I've sold a handful of of practices over the last year or two. And there was one MP that we were selling their practice for, and their books were such a mess. I was just like, listen, we're done. I'm not going to help you anymore. You need to get your books straight. I'm sorry. I'm not going to spend all of my resources and time cleaning up your books. That's not my job, because there isn't a guarantee we're going to sell your business and I'm going to get paid, because I only get paid if I sell your business. So I'm not your accountant or your bookkeeper, nor are my partners. So get your books cleaned up. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. I just can't do it. Your books are an absolute mess. Like, they had different credit cards, different debit cards, different bank accounts, different payment processors. I mean, it was an absolute mess. I don't even know how the hell they were able to even have clean taxes, to be honest with you. There's no way their books were clean. No way. No one's going to buy a business like that, guys. Nobody's going to buy a business like that. All right. And then that takes me to the next point, taxes. You have to have tax filings, clean tax filings, because they're going to use, the buyer's going to use your tax returns to confirm the income in the business. They are going to do due diligence. All right. So when we sell your business for you, the buyers are going to spend 2 to 3 months doing due diligence to make sure that your business is the real thing. They're going to look at your tax returns, and they're going to see the profits on those, and they're going to compare those to your bank statements, your profit loss statements. They're going to look at your credit card statements. They're going to look at all of this stuff, and everything, when they do their math, better match up to what you filed on your taxes. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you can't write off stuff. You can still write off your car. You still write off travel and things like that. You know what I mean? But it needs to align. All right. So make sure you have clean taxes. Another point is that if there are some growth factors within your business, that's going to look attractive. And by that, I mean, are there growth opportunities within your business? So right now we're selling a practice, an online HRT practice, and this NP has a few really solid growth vectors inside their business that a potential buyer could leverage to grow that business even more. Like, the guy's barely even advertising his clinic. Like, it's mostly just word of mouth. If he advertised his practice, it probably would increase revenue by 20-25%. So we're going to use that as a sales point, right? That's going to be a really, really important growth factor within his business. So very, 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 very important that you should have some growth factors within your business. And then another thing I hate to say, I'm kind of just going to wrap this up with this, because that was basically the main points. There's a lot more to this. Like I said, during our millionaire conferences, I talk a lot more about this. It's like a 2-hour lecture I give. Weight loss, guys, GLP-1s. We are finding it to be very difficult to sell businesses that are heavily reliant on GLP-1s. It's very, very difficult, which sucks because they're money makers. So if your business is very GLP-1 heavy, like if it accounts for probably 25% or more of your revenue, it's going to be very hard to sell your business. It's too much of a risk. Now, if you're using GLP-1s from Eli Lilly or, Novo Nordisk, then that's going to be okay. But if you're using compounded GLP-1s, that's going to be something that's going to be difficult to sell right now, because the regulatory landscape for it it's just so gray right now that buyers see that as a huge red flag. And that's going to be something that's going to be difficult to sell. So you need to ensure that I guess the point I'm getting across here is that you need to make sure that you're regulatory compliant. Now, I'm not saying that selling compounded GLP-1s is breaking the law or breaking regulation, because it's not. It's the compounding pharmacy's, problem, not yours. But a buyer is going to want to make sure that you're regulatory compliant in your business. So, if you are doing things that are gray, I guess, if you want to call it that, maybe a little against the grain, maybe not 100% compliant, that's going to be something that might become a problem when you sell the business. So like as an example would be, prescribing a controlled substance in a state where you don't have a DEA license in. Are you going to go to jail for that? No. I mean, you still have a DEA license in your home state. Like it's not really a huge deal, right? It's just going to be a slap on the hand, but it's going to be too high risk for a potential buyer. Like no buyer is going to buy a business, if you're doing a lot of that, or if you have an active lawsuit in place. Like if you have an active malpractice lawsuit against your business and yourself, don't even think about selling your business. You're just not going to be able to sell your business. Okay. So, just got to keep that in mind. I hate to say that about the GLP-1s because they are such great money makers. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone from doing that because it is a great generator of income, but you need to have complementary services in your practice. It's very hard to sell a practice that's heavy on GLP-1. If it's less than 25%, we can sell it. If it's more, it's going to be very, very difficult. Okay. So this is why it's very, very important that you diversify your services and your product lines as much as you possibly can. It's so important, guys. Like if you want a business for the long term, you really need to diversify your services. So if you are very heavy on GLP-1s right now, I would strongly encourage you to diversify your product and service line. Not even because you want to sell your business, just because it's smart business. But if you want to sell your business, you're going to have to. All right. You're just going to have to, guys. It's really not negotiable. So I think the big thing here, though, about selling your business, selling your practice, the big concepts you need to understand here is that the business cannot be reliant on you. Okay. That is not negotiable. If the business is 100% reliant on you, do not email me. Do not waste my time because no one's going to buy your business. All right. Nobody's going to buy your business. So you have to get yourself out of the business. So important, guys. All right. Very, 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 very important. You don't have to, but I would strongly encourage you have to have like a recurring income stream in your business. Okay. You really need to have recurring income, subscription-based pricing, memberships, something that's recurrent in nature. If you have a functional medicine practice, for example, that's cash-based and you charge per visit, if you have established patients who are seeing you for follow-up every 3 months or something, that's okay. All right. That can be seen as a little bit more recurrent. If you have a primary care practice where you accept insurance, you have recurrent patients coming in, right? We could use that as a recurring income stream. But if you're just strictly cash-based and you're providing a service, I would highly advise having some sort of subscription-based recurring income plan, a membership, something like that in your business. It's just going to make your business so much more attractive to a potential buyer. It's so much more attractive. Okay. So kind of keep that in mind. And then the third one is clean books. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but clean books are an absolute necessity if you're going to sell your business. It's very, very important because if you come to a broker like me, for example, and you want someone to sell your business for you, we have to have your books to create a sales deck to present to potential buyers. Okay. So I have to have the books to even, try to sell your business. And then the buyers are going to need to have your books to do all their due diligence. So you need to have clean books. You have all your bank account statements, all your credit card statements, all your tax returns. You have all of that stuff organized. All right. So if you have those three things in your business, you are posed to be able to sell your business. If you do not have those three things, it's going to be almost impossible to sell your business. The recurrent income stream, that can be something that can be, figured out, but you being out of the business and having clean books, it's not negotiable. You have to have that if you want to sell your practice. And guys, selling your practice, selling a business is a great thing. It puts so much money in your pocket at one time. Like, it is probably the fastest way to become financially independent, financially free. You can continue to operate your business and continue to get that money that comes in and continue to, save it and invest it. But if you want to retire early and you want to become financially free within a within a short period of time, you have to sell your business. Most people that I know who are financially independent, I'm involved in some communities and some memberships of financially free individuals, financially independent individuals. Like you just submit like your brokerage account to even be like a member of these groups, so they can verify that you actually are financially independent. And so the thing that I've come across, or the thing, I guess the biggest conclusion I've found here, being a member of these groups, is that almost all of those people, almost all of them sold a business. Almost all of them did. There were a few people who were able to, work and make good money and invested and kind of got lucky when investing in Bitcoin or Nvidia or some shit, Those people got lucky, all right? But for the majority of people, they built a business, they scaled it, they grew it, and they sold it. Most financially free individuals who retire early, before the age of, 50 years old, basically, most of those people sell a business. Now, if you work and you save your money and, save it appropriately or whatever, sure, you could probably retire at 55 years old and probably retire pretty well if you live very frugally and save your money. But if you want to retire early, the best way to do it is to grow your business and sell that business. Because if you don't do that, then the only other option that you have is to build a business that works for you, that essentially pays you, monthly, and you don't have to really be there. You can go travel the world and you're getting a paycheck from this business over here, but it's still your business. You still have to be involved with it to an extent, right? You still have the liability associated with it. It's still there. And if that business closes down, then what do you do, right? So, like I said, the fastest way to do it is sell the business and then invest that money into some, conservative investments, put in some bonds and some fixed income assets, those sorts of things. So that way you're just getting paid a nice dividend every single month. It's pretty nice, guys. It's pretty nice. So, that should be your goal. Okay. So, all right. Hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Again, if you guys have any ideas on some one-on-one stuff that you would like me to talk about, email me, justin@elitenp.com. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcast. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2023 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.